Hi again. My name is Jonas Dizon, or I used to say my name is Jonas, just like the song. Any Weezer fans? Yeah, like what I said earlier, I'm the director of IT for Financeit, and I'm really pleased to be here. I'm gonna be talking about what is Financeit's DevOps culture, just a window of into how we operate on a daily basis. What are how do we prioritize things? What were the challenges that we faced throughout the years and how we went around them, right? um all right, so but before that, I want you to pull out your phones. We're gonna have a little game. All right, so pull out your phones. I have three $50 American Express cards that I'm gonna be giving out to the ones that get the answer, right? All right, cool. Everyone ready? Scan the code. All right, so for every question, there's like a 20-second timer. So let's just wait a little bit for before we start. Okay. All right, everybody ready? Raise of hands for those that are ready. Okay. Just to be sure I wasn't lying about the fifth. Oh, there you go. It's true. All right. So first question. All right, join the quiz. First question. Has nothing to do with DevOps. It's just Star Wars, right? How did Ahsoka Tano survive Order 66? All right. All right. I mean, it's debatable. The two answers here are a little bit debatable. I'm a little biased because I'm a very opinionated person when it comes to Star Wars, right? So this is the way. All right. Let's show the leaderboard. All right. Hola. Who got the answer? All right. Congratulations. All right. Congrats. All right. So what was the answer? Sure. No. How do I show the answer? Let me see. Where is it? No, that's not the Q&A. Let's see. I think if I press next, the answer is that. Oh, okay. I know she left the Jedi Order before Order 66, all right? But Captain Rex was there to slow down the clones. Come on. All right, ready for the next one? All right, okay, so. All right, so this is a little bit more DevOps-y. What is referred to as immutability in the context of immutable infrastructures? Ooh. All right. I didn't realize that. Thanks. All right. So servers remain static. Servers can only exist for 24 hours. Infrastructure components are unchanged throughout their life cycles. All right. Okay. So the answer is the third one, right? Immutability. When you are operating an immutable infrastructure, you have a server that you don't change. If you need to deploy code, change configuration, you build another server and replace it, right? Oh, next one. All right, so I'm gonna need to scroll here. So you just keep. Oh, sorry. Stop. Stop. Wow, what did I do? Okay, never mind. Let's try again. Stop. No. I was just trying to figure out. Okay. Next. Next. Oops. Okay. Didn't show. She left. The winner left. Show leaderboard. I did that. Yeah, I think it's Casper, right? Leaderboard. Ah, okay. Okay. One more time. All right, Casper. All right. I was trying to get this for myself, but Casper is there. Thank you. Thanks, Casper. All right. This thing is tricky. Next one. All right. Which of the following ways DevOps promote collaboration between operations and dev teams, right? So by creating knowledge silos that only one team has the specific knowledge to perform a specific task, establishing knowledge centers, a single source of truths, reduces misunderstanding and miscommunications, misspelled that, establishing multiple communities about specific topics, right, every day. All right, so leaderboard. Oh, Casper again. All right, the second person, I guess, is, does it? All right. Well, first of all, the answer is establishing the knowledge centers, right? Let's talk about that first before the winner. Uh, yeah, so DevOps is about defeating silos, right? So you don't want to be building silos when you have teams. You want to empower the whole, the whole tech team. So then, um, you don't have silos, right? So if one person goes on vacation or wins the lottery or, sadly gets hit by a train, um, you don't worry about how to do stuff, right? And you don't lose context. So yeah, that's the answer. All right. So if I click next, it's actually Casper. Yeah, so it's real, right? All right. Yeah. So I guess the next person, right? SD. All right. Oh, that's why. That's why. You got the right answer. You just click first, right? Thank you. All right. That was messy, wasn't it? All right. So now for the more serious stuff. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, like what I mentioned earlier, what is it like to work at Financeit as a DevOps engineer or part of the DevOps team? Um, throughout the years, our experience was like we were bringing a lot of different people, different team members into our team, and they're coming from very different backgrounds and cultures. When I say culture, I'm not talking about where they were from, like personally. I'm talking about work culture, right? There are some work cultures that are so different than ours. Like they're so like you know, this is some companies are so rigid that you're asked to do one thing and that thing alone, or you know, you stay in your lane, don't worry about the other lanes. That's not how, you know, how we work. We just focus on what we were told, right? So there's that are quite the opposite, like they want to plant their flag anywhere they see and they want to be involved in everything. That's great, but sometimes that also becomes problematic, right? You know, someone wants to come in, oh, I see this thing, uh, you're not doing it the right thing, I'm gonna change it, and then takes down the server, right? And then you get a P1 alert, and our DevOps manager will be screaming, ah, what happened? And this guy's falling, right? So you know, operating in a very very you know uh, you know sensitive space, like we work at a fintech at the end of the day, right? We're a finance company. We deal with a lot of sensitive information. We deal with a lot of you know, uptime. We have a very very high uptime for Financeit. Uh, so we just figured out, let's codify our culture. Let's, you know, let's put it on paper. What do we expect from everyone, right? If you're joining the team, what do we expect from you, right? Do we expect you to be innovative? Of course we do. But do we expect you to be careful and precise with what you're doing, especially when you are in a production environment? Of course we do, right? Right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then the second point is, again, trying to juxtapose the fact that we are a finance company at the end of the day. We are we work in a very highly regulated environment. There are just the, you know, uh, the security controls that we have to put in place that that kind of like fights the idea of agility, right? So it's like anti-agile if you think about it, right? So, you know, if we did that, we'll be very secure, but nobody wants to work for us because we just stifle innovation that way. But on the other hand, nobody, you know, our customers won't trust us, our partners won't trust us if we just like, you know, become loosey goosey and stuff, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, how we went around those hurdles. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about workload management, operational prioritization, and roadmap development. Yeah, a little bit about that. So we call our DevOps team the DevOps team, but really they're an SRE team, but they're also a DevOps team, right? Uh, Two opposing ideas. Gonna talk about that later, right? Um, all right, so this is the codifying of our culture. This is the DevOps team agreement. If you're joining the DevOps team, you have to agree with this one. If you don't agree with it, we will debate, right? And we will hear you. And if you won, we will make it as part of the team agreement, right? You have to win. They have to win, right? We have a we have pretty good debaters in the team. So first and foremost, like, let's set up the thought process and mindset. First of all, we agree that you do not build flaky stuff, right? If you do not build a flaky stuff, do not, if you build a flaky stuff, do not build it. You should have not built it. Do not contribute to technical debt. Now, this is a bit anti-agile, like, you know, the MVP concept. Well, I mean, there's a gray area. You know, you can always test stuff and, you know, make it acceptable. There's a minimum viable product that you can come up with, as long as it's not flaky. It has, you know, you know, it just becomes problematic, right? Security is a top priority. Do not make security decisions in isolation. This is Um, this is a key mindset in how we operate. You know, you do not deploy something where you haven't considered security. If you're not sure, you consult your peers or me or our cybersecurity team. And if you have to make a decision about cybersecurity, you have you have to have someone that helps you make that decision, right? And we have the structure for that. Um, Lastly, this is a little bit more dramatic uh, and also philosophical, egotistical even. But we are proud of our work and our reputation for excellence. Yeah. Um, Due to this, we look after each other. So team feedback is really, really important. Somebody messed up, we're gonna talk about it respectfully, but we're gonna talk about it. In fact, we're gonna we're gonna learn about it. We're not gonna let a mistake go to waste. We will extract value from that mistake, right? And we provide feedback. We don't hide anything, right? So no secrets. Then the second point is ceremonies and meetings. You know, we have to like define a structure so we continue to be productive. We're really, really busy sometimes, and we just want to make sure that we have the structure. I'll give you an example. Every day we have a 30-minute stand up, right? And that stand up is about you're asked for two things. We're not gonna ask you how you found your dog in the ditch the other day, full of mud and stuff. We talk a little bit about that, but if we're talking about Star Wars update, we can spend the whole 30 minutes and not talk about work. That's fine. That's exception to the rule. But anyway, oh, there's my ADHD. Um, anyway, let's just say that what are the conditions for a stand-up meeting to occur? There needs to be quorum, right? So if we say, I didn't really put in our team agreement here, but I'm just describing it. But we say if at least there are two members in the team that are present, you can continue with the stand up. If it's only you, it doesn't make sense to have a meeting with yourself, right? So there you go. So we have so many other ceremonies and meetings, and every Friday we just groom our DevOps roadmap, right? Any Star Wars specific questions so far? No? All right. Okay. So, um, precision in care. Now this is really really important. Um, gonna talk about segregation of duties here a little bit. Does anybody know what segregation of duties is? Raise of hands. All right, Harris, you know about this, of course. Why not? Um, Segregation of duties is this. I'll give you a really really simple example. If you are a developer and you have access to the servers, and we are a finance company, can you bypass the CI/CD and modify the code directly on the server and compile it there? Have you seen the 1990s hit Office Space? Yeah, all right. So technically what you can do is you can you can get 10 cents maybe for every transaction that Financeit does, deposit it to your bank account. If you have access to the servers, nobody will know, right? So our regulators do not like that. So it means that no developers have access to the production servers, right? No, only the DevOps team. This means that there's a lot of pressure for the DevOps team because only this team have access to the production infrastructure. Not even the CEO, not even the CTO, not even the other directors, right? So only this team has access to the production infrastructure. If something goes wrong, the DevOps team broke it, right? It doesn't matter what happened, the DevOps team broke it, right? Um, so, there's no one else that could fix it other than the DevOps team. Well, that's not actually true. Most of the time we seek the help of the other teams because we're not that great. Um, I mean, we're great, but not that great. You know, we're great, but we're not as great when the other team helps us. That's what I meant to say. We're great. So that's an example of. I almost forgot what I was talking about. There's the ADHD thing again. Uh, so yeah, that's the segregation of duties, right? So we want to make sure that we have appropriate segregation of duties. Okay. Um, and because of that, we need like precision and care. Um, when we are operating on the production environment, one small mistake can take down the system or it can cause like a catastrophic failure, right? I tell the team that if somebody accidentally deleted the database, just text me. I won't show up tomorrow because I'm gonna jump off a bridge or something like that, right? So we have backups, but it's really embarrassing if somebody did that. So yeah, and then the next point is communications, right? So we talked about like the structure of how we communicate. What are the things that we need to communicate about? So we want to make sure that anything that impacts anyone, we communicate. Even if it doesn't impact anyone, we just are very proud about what we did. We communicate, even if they don't appreciate it. We will communicate our success, right? So um, what we do not communicate are passwords or secret keys, right? We keep those encrypted in our secret vaults. Um, so we also have a section about definitions. For example, somebody created a ticket and somebody processed that ticket and somebody said it's done, right? Well, guess what? It's not done if you haven't written a documentation for it, or it's not done if you didn't test it or all that, right? So it's not really done until you do that. And then we also have a very good documentation culture. So when somebody joins the team, one of the key things that we tell them, like, if you're looking for information, the first stop uh, that you should go to is our wiki documentation, which is the Confluence. We use Jira Confluence. If you cannot find it there, you ask your teammates through Slack, and if you cannot find it, then the documentation doesn't exist. You are now responsible for creating that documentation, right? So, or if you found your documentation to be outdated, you are also now responsible for updating that documentation. So that's the rule, right? Any questions? No? All right, so let's move on to the next topic. All right. So DevOps, agile principles in a meticulously regulated environments. I talked about segregation of duties, right? Again, what does this mean? Developers do not have access to production infrastructure. Did I say DevOps? I should have said developers. DevOps have access to production infrastructure. Every change requires peer code review and a ticket approval, right? So if you have a PR, it cannot go into production if it doesn't check those certain checkbox. Like if nobody code reviewed it, then you might as well just go to the server and compile the code there and deploy it yourself and you know uh, do a office space scenario, right? I really recommend that. Watch it. It's really nice. Um, and then, of course, there are like nuance to this. Like if you're just fixing a bug, it still needs a code review, but it doesn't need like a product approval because you're not introducing anything new. You're just fixing, uh, a faulty code, right? Any new features requires the approval from the, you know, a product stake owner or stakeholder, or certain roles that can approve those. yeah, so that's a pretty big ask, right? So what does this mean for our operation? So it means that we cannot trust people to say that they're gonna code review it, or trust me, bro, somebody code reviewed it, right? So we cannot do that, um, because we're prone for mistakes because we're humans, right? So you might accidentally submit, merge a PR, deploy to production without it being code reviewed by anyone. And we also need to ensure that this doesn't hamper our innovation and our ability to push code really, really, fast, or as much as we want to. So um, our solution, first of all, we developed a software development lifecycle policy. When we developed this, we did not develop it in isolation. We developed it together with the developers and the development team. And we want to make sure that it is well understood by everyone, right? So you cannot say, oh, nobody told me I cannot do that. Oops, right? So and then second is implementing gating controls, right? So implementing gating controls is preventing mistakes. Um, you want to make sure that even if somebody tried to sneak in a code into the servers, they won't be able to. They have to go through these hoops, right? And this has served us well. Um, and also, we implemented gating controls in Jira. So, for example, nobody. So, for example, if I try to approve a new product feature, it won't allow me because I am not a product stakeholder. So only certain roles can approve that. And then lastly is, we implemented infrastructure as code, and we actually built pipelines to actually you know follow the SDLC, right? So we have Terraform pipelines, right? So cool. Any questions? We built the Terraform pipeline in GitHub Actions, by the way. All right, so let's go into workload management. You know, when I was thinking about the title for the first bullet, right, splitting two types of work, I thought about splitting two streams, right? And I tried to be fancy and I said split stream, and then I googled what. Don't Google it, but I googled what split stream was. Again, don't Google it. Okay, I see somebody just Googled it. Guy in a white shirt just Googled it. I knew it, right? Don't, yeah, but it was something unsavory. Okay, I forgot I was talking about this. Anyway, so there are two types of work, right? So DevOps. So we have dev work, which is um, roadmap items and longer term projects, right? We develop our roadmap at the end of the year, in prep for the following year. And we don't develop it in isolation. It's heavily biased towards quality of life for the DevOps team, right? Um, what I mean by this is, um, if a task keeps on repeating, it's a task for a machine, so automation. Um, so instead of just fixing that, we should also build an automation for it. So that's a quality of life thing, right? So you don't have to be bothered for the same thing twice. Yeah, and that's an example. And we usually like build these on themes. So there's this um, concept in Jira called epics, which is basically a collection of related tickets to support a greater goal. And the second one is ops work. This is, um, again, developer support and site reliability engineering, or SRE. Because of the segregation of duties, we have the SRE duties as well, right? Because if somebody needs to, I don't know, like MacGyver or something, they don't have access to the production, and only the DevOps team can do it. But we've done a lot of automation that allows, for for the application support team to do some self provisioning, sorry, self service and stuff. Um, yeah, and you know, basically, what site reliability engineering is basically, we got a weekly on-call rotations managed by Ops Genie. So basically, we're using this tool called Ops Genie, very similar to PagerDuty. We just wanted to be in a one sort of unified platform with Atlassian. But basically, what Ops Genie is it's a scheduling system. If you are on call for after office hours support, you get alerted for P1, right? You do not get alerted for P2 because you can deal with that in the morning. So if you get alerted for P1, then you have to respond. If you didn't respond, it will call the next person, and then me, right? And yeah, so it just means that don't get drunk uh, that night, right? Um, yeah, or you can be drunk, but you should still be able to function. Not that drunk, right? So it's just a little bit, yeah. 2 beers, it's fine, right? 3 if you push it, but but um, but yeah, that's what it is, right? And the other thing is, if we had an outage, we want to prevent that same kind of outage from ever happening again, right? Because that will prevent you from being a little bit tipsy when you want. So we do incident retrospectives, and we want to make sure that we investigate the root cause of it, so then we can fix it and prevent it from ever happening again. Were there cases that the same root cause happened more than once? Yes, we're not perfect. We're working on it. But yeah, it happens, right? But or maybe we identify the root cause. Um, the fix to do that takes a little bit longer. In the meantime, it happened again, right? But it happens. And then we talk about the solutioning principles a little bit. Again, do not build unnecessary solutions, right? If you build a really nice solution that isn't required, then you're just building cost on top of you know what we're using it already. The more simple, the better. Um, if a task, I think I mentioned this, needs to be carried out more than once, it's a job for a machine. Therefore, you should automate. Security and cost should be the major driving factors, right? So if you're not sure how to prioritize it, you should think about cost and security, right? And then documentation is a part of the solution. Um, there's a little bit of an argument there that we've had many years ago, like, should we have self-documenting code or self-documenting systems, right? So you don't have to document. I personally feel that's just an excuse not to do documentation. Nobody feels the same way, but that's what I feel and I want, because it's here. um, Advantages of a small team. Okay, many things have been said about small teams, right? I just couldn't remember them, but focused and visible. Sorry, uh, focused and visible work, right? So if you have a small team, you have the advantage of a really tight knit team. You can develop those relationships and working relationships, and you get to see their strengths and their areas of improvement. And it's really nice that you get to do focused work in a high amount of volume of work. You can also do like cross-functional training and making sure that documentation is there so you can avoid silos, right? So If, for example, one of the team members goes on vacation, no worries, because everybody is, is up to speed to what they were doing, and the work can continue, right? And this doesn't happen organically or, or naturally. This is a lot of effort for the team, and we have to check ourselves, uh, all the time, to make sure that we are following this, because we've had some really bad experience with this, and that's why we got good at it a little bit. And then also, not too many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah, I just put that in there. But in terms of production access, there was a time in my previous role, um, where there were too many cooks in the kitchen, too many people had access to production servers. Production servers were going down every day, and we don't know who was doing it. Until we took everybody's access out, the production servers didn't go down anymore, right? So that's just it, right? And also, this is not for everyone. Some people require larger teams, which is acceptable. And this is working for us now, but in the future it might not, right? So, any questions there? Nope. Oh, that's it. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you. I think the next presenter is Sean.
Oh, cool. Does anyone have any questions before we get to Sean? Yeah.
Let's ask this. You said you were using Confluence, but what do you do? Sometimes in my company, I have clients that use Teams Doc, and what do you do when you have that situation where there are two knowledge base, two sources, right? Or in your company, there's no other thing than Confluence. Did you have a case where it happened?
Yeah. So I like the sound of my voice. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, we used to have multiple sources of truths, right? Um, we adapted Confluence, I think maybe 5 years ago. Um, before knowledge existed in emails and GitHub, right? So right now it's GitHub and Confluence. But what we do is we have anchors in Confluence that point to GitHub, right? If we had like documentation in GitHub that we didn't want to move into Confluence, we just have like an anchor from Confluence, and then it will take you to GitHub. All right. All right. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Angelica, do we have? Yeah.
Yep, there it is.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you. Hi, Sean.
All right. Hi, everybody. So yeah, my talk today is going to be about different ways companies sort out their teams for DevOps. And it's going to be very quick, so I won't keep you all from your drinks and your food. So I'm Sean. I'm the Director of Software Development. I work closely with Jonas on the dev side. They make the stuff work and we break the stuff, and it goes very well. Okay, so today, to start with, I'm just going to say that some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is my impressions of what people have told me about their teams from other companies, and that some of those companies are not homogenous in team structure, so they have things that vary between departments and sublines of business. And then a lot of the models look similar, but I'm going to describe how they feel different as best I can. If you have questions, I can't hear you unless you speak into the microphone. That's just one of the limitations to our sound system, so I apologize in advance if I can't hear you. So first of all, I'm going to start by talking about the extremes. So I once worked with a big UK bank as a consultant, and they had a separate team for almost everything. So they had a business analysis team, a tech analysis team, an architect analysis team, an engineering team, a QA team, and a deployment and maintenance team. And every time they finished a feature, it got signed off to a different team. And someone had to like literally sign something to say it got signed over, or click a button in some sort of archaic CI system to make sure people knew. And so all the DevOps happened, all the infrastructure happened in the deployment and maintenance team. And the deployment and maintenance team were the only people who are allowed to fix problems on production, which means you either had to be a real quote software developer who didn't touch anything on production, or a maintenance software developer who only touched things on production. And this led to some very odd, weird behaviors, and the fact that the architects had no idea what the real system actually looked like because the engineers didn't build it that way. The tech analysts would often break down the requirements so much that the engineers just copied and pasted what they wrote into code and, just didn't really understand how it worked. And there'd be endless blaming of each other of when things went wrong. So can anyone tell me what the one advantage to this type of split of teams is? Gonna need to pass the microphone around, I think. Thanks, Belle.
Welcome.
What? Good.
Hey Sean, the question.
Hello.
Hello. Hey Sean, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I said, what's the one advantage to having something like this? Why do the big UK banks do this sort of thing?
Nope.
No answers? Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you. Yeah,
Control.
the only...
Hey, Sean, someone said control.
Yeah, control is correct. So the only reason why this works anywhere is because it makes the whole compliance situation very easy. Developers literally have no idea where the stuff's deployed, so they can't modify a production system. The maintenance developers have to sign something just to get something into production. The QAs never touch the software except to test it, and they can't have any access to anything beyond. So then none of them are able to write code. And the business analysis, all their work is checked twice, 3 times before it goes to production. There's absolutely no chance of anyone putting anything into production that hasn't been checked multiple times. But also, it's super inefficient and awful. Obviously, none of us DevOps people would actually want to work there. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you've got ThoughtWorks, where everyone lives in the same team. Everyone's on call 24/7. And if you need a bigger team, they just add extra teams. So you've got your devs, your DevOps engineers, your product manager or your BA, your UX person, your QA person. And those teams are absolutely great at building systems very quickly, but they do not scale particularly well. Like you get to a point where there's a lot of common components where it makes more sense to share a DevOps person. Maybe you don't need quite as many product managers who are all like doing the same thing. Maybe your UX designs, you don't need as much UX as you need developers. So this works really well in terms of, everything works really fast, but also if you don't like being on call, it's pretty sucky. Obviously ThoughtWorks tests everything like using CD, and it's pretty hard to deploy something to production that doesn't work. And if you did, it would roll back automatically because that's how they build stuff. But still, it's not great to wake up at 3 a.m. because the site went down, even if you've taken every precaution. So one thing I've noticed is when we look at companies like Google, they tend to have separate SRE teams from their dev teams. And the way they make that work is they have lots of internal standards about how apps should run. So, an app should be a single compiled binary. It should be deployable, like on a Unix system. We only use, certain types of routing and what have you. And that works really well for them. But they do have this handover where they basically treat certain devs as special and other devs as less special, which can obviously not result in great outcomes. But it also means that if they want to scale up a particular system, They have the specialists, the network engineers, Unix engineers, the people who are just really, really solidly good at operations. In Microsoft's cloud-based teams, they've tried to embrace the DevSecOps methodology, and they deal with the scaling by having part-time team members across multiple teams. So security specialists, principal SREs, live across multiple teams, and then they'll have like more junior SREs and security people like dotted into teams. But then they'll also have help desk and on-call and engineers who will look after smaller issues. By the way, this is why if you've ever tried to get in touch with Microsoft Azure because something broke, and then the help desk says, "Oh, I can't solve this for you, so I'll have to hand it to someone else." That's why it takes them like 2 weeks to get back to you, because it's an entirely different team in a different country that they have to send it to, who has no idea who you are. Anyway, and one of the strengths of this is obviously that they have everyone they need for the actual production, and they're very quick at producing things. But in terms of maintenance, they can be pretty slow just because there's this separation between the help desk and on-call engineers and the real DevOps people who actually understand how things work. And lastly, but not least, we have Amazon. So Amazon has self-contained DevOps teams, which all provide things to other teams or get things from other teams. So for example, if you work in the product catalog team, and then you make an API that says which products are available, and then somebody in the inventory team will take that information and augment it with what's currently in the inventory, and then another team will add the prices, and then those things all seamlessly get added together to make the site that we know as Amazon. What they do is they have different platform teams which look after tools or particular parts of the infrastructure. But it's expected that the DevOps teams will basically manage that stuff by themselves. So they might be building libraries, they might be building like pipelines for people to use. But then once you have access to those tools, you're on your own. And then obviously, if you go down to the deeper level of AWS, they have all sorts of specialists. They've got a guy running around with a trolley full of hard drives who basically finds the hard drives broken, pulls them out, puts in the good ones. You've got network specialists, you've got like people optimizing SQL databases, you've got all sorts going on that side, which is, the full range of things. But there is very little communication between the DevOps teams, the platform teams, and the AWS teams. And that works really well because, if part of the site goes down, Amazon is pretty resilient. So that's one of the strengths of that one. So before I end this, I just wanted to point out that it doesn't really matter how you structure, but one thing that is becoming apparent is the larger companies are separating out a core part of their automation, their DevOps, and calling it some sort of platform team. And it doesn't matter which company you look at, there are these trends forming that there's just not enough room on a normal production team to have like a specialist for one particular area, like a database administrator or a network specialist or a Unix specialist, just because they wouldn't have enough work on a small software team. But when we look at how we build these DevOps teams, it's these patterns of having platform teams and how we structure them really impact the experience of the user and the developers and everyone who has to work there. And so I just wanted to quickly whistle stop through this to give people a chance to think about how their team is structured and how it could be better. And yeah, that's my talk. Like I said, short and sweet. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, Sean. There is someone with a question, so I'm just going to pass the mic over.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Sean, this is Hurst.
Hello.
So I know that there's a very little talk also happened on the DevSecOps side. So I come from the security side, and for somebody who is also looking to transition into DevSecOps, wanting to get your piece of advice. Is something would that person be essentially looking on the whole DevOps roadmap, or just getting on to the DevSecOps side? Because again, when we talk about security, so there's nothing specific that we are talking about, but it's more about the mindset that we are looking at. And also, what is one of the primary reasons that there's very little talk on the DevSecOps side, whereas DevOps as a whole, it's a thing in the market, and most of the companies are actually on the DevOps side.
Okay, so that's a long question, so I'm going to try my best to answer it, but do let me know if I didn't answer a part of it. So the first point about what should you do if you want a role in a DevSecOps team, I would honestly say look for a regulated company that's less than 100 people in it, because they drastically need hands-on security and policy and engineering all at the same time. So they're looking for somebody who is really in that multi-mode frame of mind, who can work on a team that also develops. I would say for large organizations, though, often security gets split into policy and execution. And a good tech team execution is normally either developers, DevOps people, or somebody technical doing the actual specification as well as the work. And on the policy side, obviously, it's normally somebody who's a risk specialist or a legal specialist. So I would just say that look at the company structure. If there's security people actually in the development team, then it will be a good place to work. But other than that, regulated industries, small companies are where I would probably look. In terms of why companies don't think about security necessarily as an integrated approach, it's just because it's a cost center, basically. Like when I think about development and how development's relationship has changed with business over the last 20 years, it's gone from being we have to have IT people to we need a website to actually we can do some pretty cool stuff with technology. And I think security is similar in the fact that not enough people have been hacked yet that people see it as really a valuable service. But once a company does get hacked, you see them really start to invest in security, really think about it, and realize that it's quite valuable in terms of the bottom line. But I think we're just not a mature industry yet in terms of other industries like law and even being an electrician, like being a developer, being a DevOps, to being an infrastructure specialist is just not as mature as those industries yet. So people try and skip on it.
Thanks, Sean. Just one last question. So how would you actually differentiate the job description or profile of a DevOps person and a DevSecOps person?
I wouldn't. I would say DevOps is a philosophy, and DevSecOps is a philosophy of trying to bring things together in the same place, like on a communication level. So I'd say that you can't be a DevSecOps person. You can't really be a DevOps person. You can be an infrastructure specialist who really understands code. You can be a cloud specialist. You can be a security specialist, a security engineer. But in terms of job title, and me and Jonas have had a long chat about this. I don't actually think DevOps should be a job title. And I definitely don't think DevSecOps should be a job title. Once you get past adding 2 or 3 words together, there's a lot to learn. And we can't be good at everything. Myself personally, I was mostly a backend developer before I moved into management. And if you asked me to set up a Kubernetes instance, it would probably take me weeks just to get the thing running.
Thanks, Sean.
Does anyone have any further questions? I think we're all good. Thank you, Sean, for joining us from Calgary, is it?
Yes, sir.
And also from the UK. I feel like I can definitely hear that UK accent.
Right, you got me.
Thank you so much. And I think we'll wrap up. Again, thank you everyone so much for joining us. If you want to